So, the story I'm going to read for you today is from the autobiography of a formerly enslaved man named Harry Smith. And in this story, Mr. Smith tells about a slave named Albert, who his master tried to whip, and it didn't go so well and led to consequences for the entire community. He was a desperate slave owner and nearly lost his life together with three of his sons in trying to whip one of his slaves named Albert. And also the loss of a number of buildings burned owned by a family named Collins as the result of this attempt to punish a slave. For some trifling affair one day, Massa Furman undertook to punish this Negro Albert, who was a powerful Negro, when he seized his master and threw him with great force on the ground. Massa failed to accomplish his design this time, so he contrived to get Albert in a large corn crib to shucking corn, then went there with sufficient force to bind and whip him. Massa Furman and his three sons prepared themselves with clubs and repaired to the corn crib and spoke to Albert, telling him to throw up his hands as they were going to bind and give him 1,000 lashes. Albert took in the situation at once and, seizing a large wooden maul in the crib, knocked them all down, and they all begged for him not to kill them. Old Mrs., hearing the disturbance, came out and implored him not to murder them all, and he finally, after a few minutes' consideration, let up on them. In about 1 year after this, Massa Furman contrived with some rich planters to arrange and whip Albert. Massa and about 20 of them rushed on to Albert, and after several had been knocked senseless, they overpowered him, bound and whipped him so. He was laid up for several weeks. And about 6 months after this whipping, the Collins, who had assisted in whipping Albert, saw their buildings, including barns, gin houses, and granaries, light up the heavens about midnight for miles around with flames. They owned several acres of fine buildings, and when the fire reached the whiskey, there was almost a great illumination, almost beyond description. All was consumed, together with fine stock, fine horses, tobacco, and making a loss of over $150,000. Then excitement ran high as to who was the guilty parties. Then, as usual on such occasions, inquiry was made among all who owned slaves. Where were your Negroes on such a night? The whipping soon began in earnest to make someone own up to who had done the deed, as there must have been several engaged in it to destroy so much property in one night. The whipping was kept up for 2 weeks with no knowledge of who were the guilty ones. When this ceased and no positive proof had been found, those who were suspected were sold and sent down the river as punishment. Albert among the number.